That's Fathom?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. So this is episode 1 of Bogdan knows stuff about the conference industry and Richard doesn't. And so we asked Bogdan questions about the conference industry, and that's a working title that we're going to work on. But yeah, the purpose of this show is I'm diving into the world of the marshland of problems that exist in the conference industry, and Bogdan is trying to help me to understand them so that we can build AI tools to fix them. And it's a good opportunity to talk through problems and possible solutions that exist today with AI and technology. So we're going to start really quick and do short videos and no blabbing. We're starting today with advice that I found on LinkedIn. The first bit of advice I found was how you can use technology to improve your conferences. Daily 5-minute alignments. Does everyone on your team know which goal matters most today? On crunch days, it's logistics. 8 weeks out, it's registrations. Post-event, it's follow-up. The point is preventing drift, where marketing pushes impressions while leadership wants pipeline. What the hell does any of that mean?
It means that you have a lot of data sources, and it's very hard for everybody to be aligned because it's very hard from multiple reasons.
So in terms of everyone knowing what goal matters most, give me an idea of a classic event that we've worked with, what teams are involved, and where this idea of alignment and goal alignment, how do people solve that today, and where are the problems with that today? And we don't need to mention names of people we've worked with, just not shaming anybody, but what problems exist today with a typical medium-sized team?
So what you've seen in terms of the conversations, there are problems across multiple stakeholders. So in theory, you have a top level, let's say you don't have a portfolio director, you have just an event director. You have the event director that has specific goals, increase sales, increase revenue, move the show to another city, copy the show to another location, or anything like that. Then you've got the teams underneath them that are anything from marketing to operations to sales. And as you know, sometimes the marketing wears the operations hat or the support hat, and then the ops teams might have a marketing hat, and so on from that perspective. So it depends very much from event to event, but you mainly have an event director goals, a marketing team goals, a sales team's goals, and an ops team's goals. So marketing would be selling more tickets or getting more people to register for the event and whatever they sell via the website. Sales is direct sales, so that means exhibitors, sponsors, and everything like that. And ops can include anything from setting up the trade show to speakers to, you might have a content under marketing or under ops. Depends on event to event.
Why do you have to have an alignment then? If I'm the event director and I want to push sales, obviously revenue, if I'm looking at marketing and they're pushing impressions to get more ticket sales and more, views so people can go to the registration website, buy tickets, in that case, I'm putting stuff out on LinkedIn and people are clicking the links to go to our website. So I could just present the analytics from the website to the boss and say, look, we've done these campaigns and we got an uptick of 10,000 people visited the site, and we saw from Google Analytics or whatever simple tool exists that led to 100 more ticket purchases. So, we're doing something right. And you mentioned ops, for the ops side, booking exhibitors and their stands and what equipment they need. I don't really see where there needs to be necessarily alignment between those things, or if it's just, do they present reports to each other, or how do they show that they're all supporting each other?
On paper, at least, the alignment comes from the idea that marketing it's just the pipeline. Marketing drives inquiries for sales, sales sells, sell, operations deliver, technically speaking.
Okay.
So then as an event director, you should have an encompassing view of everything that happens in terms of, are we driving enough leads to sales? Do I need to put more SDRs, for example, on sales because we don't have enough traffic? Are we doing enough to sell the free tickets? Are we upgrading? Do I need to sell them? Is ops over budget, under budget? Can we deliver what has been sold to people?
All right, let's dig into that a little bit because that seems to be kind of moving towards the technological solution. So if everybody needs to have those different ideas of, how much are we selling or whatever, how have those, maybe that's the point that they were trying to make with this advice was, how does the alignment today happen literally in like technologically, what's the typical platform that alignment happens on where the boss can go and see, oh, I see that the marketing team have completed this task. Oh, I see that the ops team are currently working on this task. Oh, I see the sales team are working on this task. Like, are we talking Asana, Monday, Notion, like Slack,
Oh,
email, written things on a napkin that are passed to each other while they're having a
yes.
beer? Like
The answer is yes to everything.
all
I
of
think
them.
when it comes to, so if you segment it in two parts, one is the event tech platforms and then the tech platforms that you have part of your tech stack that are not event specific related.
Okay.
Event tech platforms, most of them are going to tell you that they have comprehensive reporting, which I
Okay.
find a little bit bullshit because they are reporting on their specific thing that they're doing. So, which is crucial, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't mean that you have an alignment because you can have an app or an exhibitor manual or anything like that.
Well, so hold on with that there, because yeah, event-specific apps, I don't really care because they're all trying to solve a specific problem. I don't care about that. Or like, I mean, I know you have big companies like Cvent or whatever that try to solve the whole cycle, but they're all
Yeah.
going to base it on that kind of Monday or Asana principle of you have some task list and you can share it and design things between the team. So why are people not using, for example, free tools that exist like Jira, or you can have a free plan on Asana, ClickUp, Monday, Notion, Slack even. Why are people not just using these simple tools just to get that basic alignment in place?
I'm sure some are. I'm also sure most of them don't because they still rely on a lot on spreadsheets because it's very, why spreadsheets? Because it's very, most event professionals, and I'm talking here about marketing, operations, or sales, are non-technical people. So in order for you to have a comprehensive integrated experience, you have to have a tech team. Most events cannot afford to have a tech team. So if you compare something like Clarion, which we know quite well, to something like a independent organizer who has two trade shows a year, they won't have a tech team, the smaller team, to help them. So that means that if you want to use Jira or Notion or Asana, which you know all of them inside out, you need to have a setup, you need to have a set of integrations, you need to have a data flow that allows you to have everything in one place.
No, I would say, so I gave this advice years ago at another conference back in the days where I was more in the training industry. And I said to people, I can't remember what it was. I wanted to have one of those Gary Vaynerchuk moments where I'm like, I said it 10 years ago and here we are. It was, I said to everybody, with the way that technology is moving, you need not have a tech team or don't outsource. Definitely don't outsource. Outsourcing is the worst. Sorry, any agencies out there, but agencies will rip you off. It's guaranteed. An agency will rip you off. And it's probably because they have been burned a lot by client requests that have been way over and above and beyond what they should be doing. And, they've had conflicts. And so they all kind of over budget and they'll all rip you off by default, just to protect themselves. But I said to them, look, don't outsource, don't insource. Find one person on your team who you can sort of spare from something, hire somebody junior to replace them, somebody who's a bit of a geek, and just give them the task of going and learning these different tools and setting them up. Because yeah, you're right, Asana, you can't just put Asana in place or Notion in place and then all your problems are solved. You need to have somebody who's willing to invest the time to learn about Asana automations, Notion automations, Monday, they all have automations. I think even Slack bots, for example, automations that mean if I update this critical task, then that in ops, that tells the sales team something that they need to know automatically and vice versa. So there's notifications pinging all over the place and everybody is aligned in that case. So I said, get that geek, give that geek a raise, and then tell that geek to do, because I was that geek. I'm that geek and I've, succeeded today with that pathway. But today, so at that time, people criticized me because they would say, yeah, but it's not as easy as that to find somebody who's a real geek on your team. We don't all have real geeks on our teams. But today, you can tell somebody who's not even that much of a geek, who just knows how to use computers and has, you know, a good head for imagining solutions, and just get them to give them a $20 a month subscription to Claude, and just get them to go and start projects. Like we've shown in webinars we've done, you know, open a Claude project, put in the files, all the information about your company, your conferences, whatever. And yes, okay, data protection, we could talk about that later. But just have them learn from Claude, and Claude is their teacher, how to set these things up. And it'll probably be 10 times faster and 10 times more realistic than it was 10 years ago. So is that not a possible solution today, that people can empower someone on their team to become the Claude geek, who, you know, becomes a Claude master and produces solutions?
Because you're thinking from your perspective, that you find things that come easy to you, you find them simple. That doesn't mean that everybody can find them simple. So there is a process there. So it has to be a more of a strategic decision rather than a operational decision to say, we need somebody in the team to do this.
Yeah, but to say, so where I think you're right, and also you're giving me too much credit. Yes, I find these things easy because I'm a super geek. So that's just, you know, from very, very young age. But I would say, having done training, and I do training, professional coaching and groups or whatever on how to use AI. I see that you know, I'll train a group of 10 people. I agree with you. There'll be 5 of them who will use the training, they'll be happy, and they'll go away experimenting a little bit, but just kind of use the stuff I've given them and not go much further. There'll be a few of them who are just kind of against it, 2 or 3 of them who are just like, nah, this isn't for me, and they'll tick the boxes in the training but then just leave. And then there'll be 2, maybe 1 or 2 people who really are just like, this unlocks my passion, and they'll just go for it, and they'll come back to me with stuff that I didn't even ask them to do, and I'll be like, geez, you guys they'll ask me questions about stuff I didn't even think of including in the training, because it unlocks something in them. So I would say it's a strategic decision. It's an internal staffing decision to, I don't know, is it a hackathon? What do you need to do? If somebody's listening to this and they're like, yeah, I want to find that impassioned person who I can unlock, can you do like an internal training day? Can you do a hackathon? What can people do to what would you say, unearth that diamond in the rough of their team?
If that exists, you know how much I like hackathons, but even asking a question in terms of trying to figure out problems, I wouldn't know how to come strategically in terms of asking the questions, but an internal training day would be probably ideal, because that's the cheapest way to get somebody like you or somebody that does proper AI training and give them the opportunity to build something, get them excited, show them that the possibility that they might not know. You know, the same thing that you were talking to that ops gentleman when we were on site, and we're talking to them and saying, oh, I would love to do this, I don't know how to start.
Yes,
that's the start.
That's a great example. That's the example. He was like just sitting at home playing with these things in his private time, too embarrassed to tell his boss about it, but was genuinely like telling me he was doing things where I was thinking, this is a path for you. You should maybe think about doing this. And, you know, the danger for the company is that somebody goes down that path by themselves privately, doesn't tell the company, and ends up getting snapped up by some startup or something and getting paid twice as much to do that job. So anyway, that's for another time. But I would say
you have to change the mentality, technically speaking.
Yeah, I would not have someone come in. I would say get somebody. Hackathon's a nice idea, but I would do a kind of hackathon challenge. I would do like strategically. You decide, okay, we're going to tell somebody we need a tool internally that can link up our existing Google Sheet that we have for ops with our Monday platform, our Asana platform, whatever that we use for sales. And we need somebody who can find a way to link these 2 up. It's totally optional. You can have a Claude account if you need one. We want you to try to build a tool that we can prototype and test internally, and you show me that it works, that it, you know, can synchronize what's happening in sales with what's happening in the ops spreadsheet. A good example that comes to mind is stand size and equipment, like options that they've bought. So if sales end up selling a bigger stand to someone, that immediately would trigger something that would synchronize with ops, but also inform ops, not just change it in the Google Sheet, but send an email, for example, or put in a comment to the Google Sheet or something. I don't know, they can experiment with it, but that alerts the ops team that there's been a change. So have that kind of versioning idea. So yeah, you have set up a stand that's 2x2, but they've actually just sold the 2x3. So you need to update that. So that it's not just updated in the Google Sheet, but then it triggers the humans to take an action, the human users behind it to take an action, and just see what people come up with. And there'll be a lot of people who poo-poo it and just, I don't have time for that, I'm not paid for that. And there might be the one person who sees that as an opportunity to get a raise. You don't have to offer them something like a gift voucher for whatever, a holiday or something, I don't know, like a hotels.com gift voucher or something like that as a prize. That's going to be a small investment versus actually having a tool that could potentially save a lot of time internally, and also unearthing that person that then you could perhaps support going down the path of being a part-time tech genius internally. So that's how I would start to work on alignment to get to the conclusion of this advice that I find about alignment between your teams. So if you don't have anything, maybe you can close it out, and then you're done. Okay, let's close that out, and we'll come back at another time with another bit of advice. That was fun.
That was fun. Let's find something that we can build now.
Yeah, fun. Gotta kick Fathom.